We are live on Chewy's Road to Enlightenment, Sunday morning, 9 a.m., and I am joined with Marika Rauscher, live from the United Kingdom, and I'd like to welcome you to the show. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, thank you, and how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Not a problem, and thanks for coming on. I know it was a little hectic. We tried doing this last weekend, and didn't happen, but all is good in the world, and here we are live on
We're
this.
here now. That's the important thing, right?
It is. That's it. We're here now. We're having the conversation, and again, welcome. I'd like to start off. Can you tell me where you're from?
Yes, I'm from London in the UK, but both my parents are from Vienna in Austria. So I'm an Anglo-Austrian.
This is
But I was born and brought up here in London.
this is too funny. My son's girlfriend, her family, her and her grandmother still live in Austria, and they go over to Austria quite frequently. Um,
Oh, no way!
yeah, yeah. So they're I'll, outside of this conversation, I'll give you a little information after we talk. But uh,
Yeah.
but there, it's some interesting stuff. But that's great. So grew up in the UK. Grew up in London.
Yep, here in central London. So I'm now South London, but I've been here all my life.
Awesome. And what was it? What was it like growing up in London? You have a lot of stuff going on in London. There's many things to see and do. How was that experience growing up in London?
Oh well, I loved it. I mean, so I still love it. As you said, there's just so much to do, and there's just so many things to be inspired by. Not just the architecture, but the arts and everything that we've got surrounding us. And we've got some wonderful open spaces and parks and the river, and it's just it's for me, it's got a little bit of everything. So for city living, it's really lovely. And we're not far from the seaside or anything like that. And the countryside's gorgeous. But I love the city life. I think there's just a real buzz and energy about it. And we've got a really multicultural background here and the different types of foods and cuisines we've got access to and the different cultures. I just find it really exciting. I love it.
That's great. And so, being in the city, you're exposed to a lot of art, a lot of music culture. Um, let's talk about that. What started your passion for music?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard one to pinpoint. I think music's always been part of my life, and both my parents thought they had an Austrian restaurant that was the family business. And my mum sang every night, and there was a live accordion player. Uh, I think we've just always been exposed to music in the household as well. So it's always been around. And then I was very fortunate that my parents always took us to either an opera, a ballet, or a musical on Boxing Day or around Christmas. And I think that's what really sparked my love of being on stage, and sort of the magic and the creation of all of that. I think sort of really had an impact on me. But I think that, we were quite active in having music lessons and started with the recorder and piano lessons as a kid and did ballet lessons. So I think it was always encouraged. My parents always loved the theatre and things like that. So it's always been part of the fabric of my nature. And we couldn't imagine sort of being a day without music or some kind of influence of art around me. It would be a totally surreal experience for me.
I can agree, and I can connect with that on so many levels. Because yeah, music is. I mean, it's music, but brings people together. It bonds. You can eat with music in the background and enjoy that atmosphere. You can take in a show, and it's just the experience from music. is so influential in our daily life. Sometimes people don't realize it, you know.
No, exactly, completely. And I think sort of the power of music as well, not just, I mean, from the singing perspective, but also from just listening to music, it can completely transition our mood.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
it's sort of like just really sort of either brings us up, or if you just need to chill out and just relax. And it's sort of, I think it plays such an essential role into our mindset and our moods, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I know. I start I start my day with a quick, little bit of meditation when I get up, and then on my way to get my coffee in the morning before I head into my job, I have to start it off with music. That's the first thing I do. My day starts off with music, and it usually ends with music. Um, and I find that helps me find balance in my daily life. Music.
Yeah. And I don't, as you said, I don't know if people even recognize that they do it. It's become so integral in people's lives, sort of like, as you said, like the first thing that I do when I get up is I switch the radio on.
Hmm.
Before I do anything, it's sort of like, it's like, right, I need music, I need sound, I'm up, I'm awake.
Yes, it definitely. I know it's just as important as my cup of coffee in the morning. Listening to the music just to start my day. And
Right.
the music you
Yeah.
listen to sets the mood for the day on how you're going to feel. It's a beautiful thing. Um,
Yeah.
I I'd like to ask you. So at what point in your life did you decide, okay, I'm going to start performing? I want to get out there and share your voice with people. What age were you when you started doing that?
Gosh, that was a bit of a journey. I mean, even as a child, I was always performing, sort of in the school plays and activities and things like that. But I was quite a shy child, which people find quite hard to believe. But seemed to be more happy if I was backstage. I just didn't have the confidence to stand front stage and sing, and it wasn't for me a comfortable place to be. And then I went to university as a first study flautist, so I was playing the flute. And then in my second year at uni, that's when I kind of came into my own a little bit, and I just went, no, I really want to do the singing. Let's give that a go. So I swapped to singing as my first study instrument. And then after university, I came back and I just started working to earn some money,
Hmm.
and got involved with some choirs just to keep the singing going. And then I was just sort of like, oh, I wonder if I could get a solo.
Okay.
I'd be brave enough to do that with people backing me.
Hmm.
And I just ended up going into an opera course to see if that's the direction I wanted to take my singing in. And I just expected to be one of the chorus girls. And the lady who was running the program, she always picked me for all the lead roles. So that's when somebody believes in you, you end up sort of rising to that mark. And I was just like, okay, well, hold on a minute. Then if somebody hears, she's obviously hearing something in me. So let's give this a go. This could actually really happen. And that kind of really inspired me to try and go forward with the singing as a career. And then I ended up being the in-house opera singer at Harrods, which is the famous sort of shopping store over here in the UK.
Hmm.
And that kind of launched my career. That was sort of my springboard, if you want. It gave me a basis, and it gave me the confidence to say, do you know what? Yeah, I'm good enough to be paid for my singing now. So after all the training, I think that was the next hurdle. It's not just knowing that you can sing or being wanting to sing. It's a completely different mindset when the instrument is you to then say, oh, I'm going to charge for this,
Hmm.
and it's worth paying for. And that's sort of a whole different business mindset, because you're not selling somebody else's product, you're selling yourself.
Right.
And I think that's the hardest bit. So all of that was a bit of a journey, but I'm very glad that I went on it because it worked out well for me.
You seem to be doing very well. And I guess what what was your first what would you consider your first major show or performance that you did?
Oh, I think for me, the one that sort of sticks out was actually a jazz concert I did at school. Um, I just remember it simply because it was such a poignant point where had a solo. I had to get up and sing, and my music teacher was on the piano. And as soon as I got on stage and they put the spotlight on me, I completely blanked. I couldn't remember even the first word of the song.
Oh.
So I was trying to make eye contact with my music teacher to sort of let him know that it's going to go horribly wrong in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't remember anything. And then the song just came to me literally word by word, sentence by sentence, and I got through it. It was like the most painful performance of my whole life because I really wasn't in any flow, as we call it as artists. It was just literally words coming in the moment, and that fear of personal failure, I guess, was crazy. And I remember sort of like just coming off stage and crying my eyes out because probably just the relief that I got through it. So that one always, I think that was a pinnacle moment where I just was like, do you know what? It's in there somewhere, and I just have to have the belief in myself that it will always be there if I put the work in. So, I didn't give up. It was just sort of a very uncomfortable experience. I went, okay, well, that's probably the worst it'll ever be, hopefully. It can only get better.
It can only, well, that's, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just sort of like saying then over the years, there's just been so many wonderful performances. It's really hard to say one was the best. I think every time I think I've done something, I went, oh my gosh, that's now the pinnacle of my career. That, I've totally outdone myself. And then something else comes up and you're going, no, that was like, so everyone goes, well, what's next? And I was just, well, that's always the big question. It's like there's always something else to be achieved and always something else to do. And I think that's half the excitement about it, is that it's not the same grind every day. That you can get to be creative and come up with different things, and that the pathway isn't always clear. You don't always know what's around the corner. So that's terrifying and exciting at the same time. An interesting career path.
No, and that's you made a couple of points. You never know what's ahead of you. I mean, and I take that mindset. My mindset is that every day is a new challenge. Every day is a clean slate. And it's a fresh start. So your day, your path, it's amazing when you get onto that path, your journey, and you see there's always a fork in the road on a decision you need to make, whether I'm going to go left or I'm going to go right, and how's that going to affect and how's it going to affect me. And it's amazing. And I think the more you get in tune with whether it's the universe or the energy or whatever, and you're on that path, it's almost self-guiding. I don't know if you feel that, if that resonates with you.
Yeah, totally. I can't agree more. It's one of those things where you can have the best laid plans. So there's always things that I just think, oh yes, I'm going to have a forecast of this is what I want to achieve in the coming year. And, there's often things will just go, okay, well, I'm not giving up on that idea, but I'm just going to have to put that aside for a minute because this amazing opportunity is right in front of me and that might not come again. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you've just got to take that leap of faith and roll with that. And, you're just thinking, well, what's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't happen, I tried.
Yep.
Right? It's like, but if I never give it a go, you'll never know. So,
absolutely.
Like the worst thing that can happen is it goes horribly wrong. Well, okay, you learn from it.
Absolutely. And I just want to add on to that. We are our own worst critics. I think,
Oh my God, yeah.
And I think sometimes that plays a huge role in life's decisions. You're like, because nobody likes failing, but from failure comes accomplishment. And it's like once you failed, I feel okay, there's a lesson to be learned. What am I going to do next? What's going to be different? What type of change am I going to make? And
Yeah.
for the most part, you make changes, and you roll with it. And then things, I think, gradually become easier for you. And it's just you're on a journey, and it's a river, and you're going left, you're going right, you're going up, you're going down. And that's the greatest thing about everyone's personal journey is everybody's journey is completely different than the next person's. And
Yeah.
it's just a great thing. um
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. I think you just hit the nail on the head there with the sort of like nobody likes change, but as you said, there's always a lesson in it, because as long as you learn to reflect on that and not see it as something that's, there's options of how to progress
yes.
and how to do it better next time.
Yes.
Sort of like, going, take the good out of it and say, well, that worked.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a complete failure because bits of it worked. That bit didn't. And that's why it didn't go in the direction I needed it to. And then you just learn from that and keep building. So, I think a lot of my career, I just felt like I was slinging mud at the wall and just saw what stuck. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, well, that worked and that didn't. So I was like, okay, well, just keep going.
And that's all we can do, because the second we get into the mindset of like, oh, this isn't going to work, I'm done, that's when depression sets in. That's when the negative energy comes in. And it's easy to get into that mindset, of being negative and being depressed. I know with the last couple years, the way things were with music, it was, I definitely got into that mindset because you couldn't go see live shows. And live music to me is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting how the arts sort of like took a center stage actually during the lockdowns and during the COVID years. People really sort of turned to that.
Yes.
And even myself, because people go, well, what inspires you? And I just went, well, absolutely everything inspires me. People inspire me. Nature inspires me. A conversation with a stranger inspires me. So when all of those things got taken away from us, I was just sort of like, oh, I really started craving just seeing art and pictures and just using my imagination in a different way to start seeing things that I don't usually get to see. Because you were just only allowed to walk around the block, right? So you're just like, well, I'm not inspired by seeing the same things I see every day. Mm-hmm. And I had to find those creative and inspirational streaks elsewhere. But I think a lot of artists especially, they also live with imposter syndrome. So they do feel that they're not good enough, or, they'll figure it out in a minute that I'm not the best at the craft I believe myself to be, but everyone's a work in progress. And I think we've only got to offer what we've got right now. Mm-hmm. And that's got to be good enough for us and for everyone else. It's sort of like, we've always, as you said, every day is a new day for us to try something new, to rebirth ourselves, to let go of a past and sort of go, do you know what? Okay, well, this is where I'm at today, and that's okay. That's going to be good enough, and I'm going to make that work.
Absolutely.
So I think that was also a mindset we needed to hold on to in lockdown. Every day, sort of like, right, okay, well, today I'm going to make this work.
Yes, absolutely.
And feel blessings for it. Yeah.
And that was, I know when we started coming out of the craziness, it was like I longed for those live shows, the engagements with people. I'm fortunate. During those lockdowns, our family got so close because everybody was. I have 4 kids, yeah. And they were all home because they were away at school and had to come home.
Wow.
So, but it was perfect because, we started off the mornings. Everybody would wake up. We'd go outside. We'd have coffee. We'd interact. We'd had fires in our little chimney outside.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was a, that's actually one of the things I miss about that was hey, we're home, and you know what, we're gonna make the best of it. And I got to spend time with my family, and that's when I had really during that whole thing. I had an accident. I got hurt. I was laid up for over 2 years, and you know,
Wow.
but that's when I had my what I call a spiritual awakening. Um, the way I interacted with people when we came out of it, the way I proceeded with my daily life. I started, just letting go of negative energy, letting go of negative
Mm.
thoughts, and put myself into that positive mindset. And it was really one of the greatest things to come out of for me coming out of COVID with that and my injury. It was like, okay, and that's what enabled this to have this talk with you was the idea of the podcast and being able to connect with people and hear their stories and that's what I love about doing these types of talks
I
is
love it.
we get to connect with people from all over the world and have a great conversation and hear their life stories and
Yeah.
it resonates with people when you can talk
Yep.
and people hear that.
And I remember even saying it then. I was like, actually, how, to a certain extent, how lucky were we that this happens in an age where we have technology?
Mm-hmm.
Because it did open up so many doors,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I was coaching all over the world. I was coaching in 1 hour, I was coaching somebody in north of England. The next hour, I was coaching somebody in Germany. Then I was coaching over in New York. You just sort of like, wow, I've traveled the world today and I haven't left my house.
Yes.
That was quite mind-blowing that I opened that up, whereas previously you might have not been able to do that, or people weren't as open to that because they wanted you to physically come to that venue. So you're like, okay, well, I can't physically get to you with that flight and be back for my next booking in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of broke down those barriers, and that was really exciting. Again, connecting with different people, and you just thought like, wow, I can take this all over the world, and hopefully that's stayed. That people are more open about using technology in that way, which is awesome. So yeah, exactly. And for us to be connected today, it's just, I just think part of that, I still find that completely mind-blowing. It's sort of like, that's very cool.
Yeah, it is. And I love it. I love technology and I hate it all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
and I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. So for me to, I have to ask my kids like, hey, how does this work? And they're like, with the phone or the computer. And it's like, oh, okay. I've been struggling for over an hour.
Well, that's the other thing, sort of like, especially because we didn't grow up with mobile phones in our hands. So, we'll go out and everyone's like, you didn't take any pictures? It's like, no, I was engaged in a conversation and having a good time. It didn't even dawn on me
Yes.
to take my phone out and start videoing it or photographing things. And, you're like, damn it.
Yeah.
Why did I not think of that?
Yeah, it's funny. The more, the older I get, especially with the technology in the phone and the pictures, I try to grab pictures, a couple, or if I'm at a concert, I'll take a quick video or something. But then but then there's a part of you that, and maybe it's selfish of me, but sometimes it's like this moment here right now is for me. And I'm going to take it in and I'm not going to share it. If other people are there, they're sharing the same experience. But sometimes, I don't know, you don't want to share that with people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, because you're fully immersing yourself into that moment.
Yes.
So, I mean, just, I think sort of the memories are things that you can't replace. And that's a wonderful thing as well. And part of my performing is very much that. When people say, what do you do? I said, well, actually, I provide people with memories in that way, because it's a moment in time that they'll always remember.
Yes.
And it's like family moments. And I think that's something quite magical. And yes, as you said, sort of like, it's not always with the technology. It's something that we share amongst ourselves. Again, it's that connection with people or connection in that moment. So I'm totally with you on that. And it's not selfish. I think that's just, and if it is, I'm all for it.
Yeah, right. No, it's a beautiful thing. And you know what's great with the technology too, like recording, music or anything now. It's always going to be there for generations and generations beyond our existence, and that to me is that's it's pretty amazing. Because you think you go back 100 years that there wasn't really any recording devices, or people weren't listening
No.
to somebody on the East Coast or the West Coast of the US or in the UK or Ireland. And now it's like with all that availability, through the magic of the internet and the social medias, it's like the stuff we're exposed to and the artists, it's just it's mind blowing and absolutely love it.
Totally. And that's the kind of things where it's opened up so many opportunities as well. I've pretty much been self-represented all throughout my whole career, and that's because of the opportunities of having social media.
Mm-hmm.
So you just sort of like putting your message out there. It's, you go to networking events, or not even necessarily networking. I just go out and talk. I'm a talker. So people just find out about me by me just going up and having a conversation. But then with social media, you can self-represent. You can put videos up on YouTube,
Sure.
and Spotify. And to a certain extent, there is the counter-argument of, oh, it's oversaturated now. How do you stand out? I was like, but you get that opportunity. You get to carve a niche, and you get a platform to put your art on. It's a sort of like that. That's really cool. That's not something that was there before. Unless you had an agent or something, you couldn't get your work easily heard or seen. It was quite difficult. So again, it just opens up so many different doors.
It sure does, and hopefully, going forward, with the social media and stuff, and being able to get on these platforms, the artists are able to make more of a profit on their stuff because they can self produce. It's great because there's music, there's apps where you can record on and do all this stuff and have a very good outcome with what you did, and you can do it in your house.
Yeah. And relatively cheaply, and when all things considered.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question. As far as positive influences in your life, who do you think was one of the biggest positive influences to get you on your journey with music?
Oh gosh, I would have to say my family. Definitely, sort of my parents and my sister. They're just my number one fan.
Yep.
And without their belief in it, I think especially for my parents to have believed in me and my talent, for me to pursue it and giving me that opportunity, that's pretty ballsy of them. I remember my mum going, well, how do you make money out of that? But I have no idea. But, give me the opportunity to find out. There's opportunities there were babies, and they just, they came over here to try and give us a better opportunity in life. And I was like, okay, well, let me have that. Let me grab it with both hands and see what I can do. And then, there's always that sort of like I was doing operations management, and I've done human resources in Citibank. I had experience in other career paths, so that if it all did go horribly wrong, or I realized I wasn't cut out for it, then I had something to fall back on. But luckily, I didn't have to fall back on it. I think I had certain experiences working in offices where I just went, this is so not for me. That's it. I've got to give this 100%, because when you're living in two worlds, working full time and trying to build your career, then you can only give 50% to each. It's impossible for any human to do everything.
Yep.
And at one point, it has to come, I reached that crux point where I went, I've got to give it 100% now to get 100% back. It's now or never. And then you've got to take that leap of faith. And I think I've just been extremely blessed that, I had parents who believed in me and who supported me, and never said, don't do it, get a proper job, or, none of that existed. That was never, ever said to me. So I consider myself extraordinarily lucky and extraordinarily fortunate, and knowing that they carved out their dreams and their lives, and, that I could do the same thing. So, yeah, I would definitely hold my family up there as my positivity sort of pinnacle.
Okay.
My pillars of positivity.
That's awesome. You and I, that's very relatable for myself as well. I know my family is one of my biggest fans, and you know,
Yeah.
they were a huge driving force in what I'm doing now and having conversations with people. But being exposed to music at such a young age for myself, that was through my family, through my uncle, through my mom, through my dad, and
Amazing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just when your family is behind you, it definitely gives you I think, an added push to what you're doing. For the simple fact that you don't want to be, first off, you don't want to be a disappointment to yourself, but you don't want to disappoint your
Yeah.
family. So you immerse yourself in
Right.
what you're doing, and then getting the love and support, whether it's a wife, a husband, children, parents, aunts, uncles. It's a great thing because that positive energy definitely drives and pushes you. And I think it actually helps you get outside of your comfort zone of what you normally would do, or how you'd interact with people. And that's just, yeah, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it really is. And I think sort of like, you just count your own blessings and just go, do you know what? Not everyone has those privileges. And, that my parents were able to take us to concerts and to productions and shows and sort of give us that exposure to these things. So I count my blessings very much. I think that's a wonderful gift that they gave us, is that we had the exposure to that from an early age.
Sure.
um, yeah, it's really lovely, and it's lovely when other people sort of see a talent, and then teachers get behind you as well. And it's just a life journey, isn't it? It's sort of like, it's one of those things where, as you said, we can all be self-doubtful about our own abilities and our confidence levels, and um, but then you look back and you just go, all along the way, there's always been somebody who had my back,
Hmm.
and that's probably that little nudge that kept my little interest going, sort of like going, okay, maybe not right now, but maybe I'm not going to give up on the idea, you know.
Sure.
And then when you try and worm away from it, they're still there nudging you. I thought my flute teacher at school was one of those influential people, and he is now one of the chorus singers at the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden. But back in the day, his wife was the music teacher, and he said, "Well, Marika, are you auditioning for the school musical?" And I was just like, "Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think I'm going to just go for backstage help." And
Hmm.
he was like, "But you take singing lessons?" I'm like, "Yeah." He went, "And you deserve to be front stage. You should do that. It's totally you. I can't believe you're not thinking of auditioning." And I was just like, "Yeah, no, I don't know. I just don't have the confidence. I don't think I'll do it."
Hmm.
And it was his fault. He just went, "Okay, well, next week, don't bother bringing your flute to the lesson, because we're going to work on your audition material." And
Wow.
so again, it's like, he wasn't even my singing teacher. He was my flute teacher. And he was just like not letting that opportunity pass me by. And I did get a little solo in that. And again, that was another confidence boost for me, and things like that. So you sort of look back and you go, wow, all these little moments in time, there were people who were looking out for me or saw something in me, gave me that little nudge. And you kind of dismiss it. You're as a child, you're just sort of like, oh, God, here we go.
Yep.
But later, you suddenly join the dots and you're like, yep, something was aligning. That was all part of the path.
Absolutely. And I I refer to those moments in time. Those are defining moments. And
Mm,
we have so many defining moments in our lives, and we don't even realize it. And
no.
you think back like, oh wow, if I didn't take this opportunity, or I didn't have this conversation with so and so, or if I didn't get out of the house and do this day, this and this would have never happened. It's like, there's, like I said, you come to that cross in the fork in the road. Do I go left or do I go right? And
Yeah.
and then you feel, again, you choose the path that you feel like, okay, this is what I need to do. And to me, it's a defining moment, and I cherish those points in time, because it's just, I don't know where I would be if I didn't choose the path I'm on now. I couldn't imagine not doing what I'm doing, and it's pretty remarkable. It's pretty.
Exactly. And as you said, it's like it's also the universe aligning for you. So you put something out there, if it's called manifestation, it could well be.
Yes.
But I remember sort of when people say, how opportunity comes around. And there was a guy, I saw a new opera company coming on the scene in London.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, who are these guys? And what are they doing? This looks exciting, right? So started following them. And then I saw that they needed some extra tenors. So I emailed them, I reached out and I said, hi, we don't know each other, but would you like me to put the word out for you? I know some singers that might be interested. I said, yeah, that's amazing, thank you. And then I went to the opera, said hello, we said face to face. And then I said, okay, look, any production afterwards, the producers are always super busy sort of promoting and meet and greeting. And I said, come on, let's go for a coffee another time where we can really sit down and have a chat. And that's what we did. And sort of befriended this gentleman called Norman Welch. And he was just like, so what are you aspiring to at the moment as an artist? What would you like to do? And I said, well, do you know what I haven't done yet that I'd really love? I haven't got an album. I was like, I'd love to make an album. I think that'd be a super cool thing for an artist to have an album. Anyway, sort of like think, well, surely that's on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing I know, we go out for another coffee. He said, oh, would you mind reading some of my poems? He's a writer. I said, no, not at all. And I was just like, I'm not very easily in public moved to tears. I wouldn't say that about myself, but I couldn't help it. I was so moved by these poems. I was like, Norman, this is absolutely beautiful. You are so ridiculously talented. And he's like, I'm so glad you said that because those are the lyrics for your first album.
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
what? And then he was like, yep. And then he came to my cabaret show I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and he brought a friend of his, which I thought was really nice. He came to support. And he was introducing me to his friend. And then later he was like, what you don't know is that's the composer of your new album. That was like your audition. We're going to write you an album and we're going to produce it for you. I was like, what? What is happening right now?
Amazing.
So, I was just like, when does that happen? That, you just mentioned to someone, yeah, I'd love to make an album. He was like, great, okay, we're going to make that happen. Let's do it. So I was just like, that's opportunities, right? Just from talking and things like that. I was just sort of like, that's so cool. So you're kind of sowing the seeds without even realizing it. And I think the biggest lesson for me was that I didn't have to do everything alone. But I couldn't do everything alone. And that asking for help is not a weakness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you just say, do you know what? I need your help in doing this because I'm not a lyricist. I'm not a composer. And I think it was just, I'm still to this moment find that an amazing thing. And it's actually our 10-year anniversary of the album. And so I can announce it live here for the first time. No one even knows this, that we're doing a 10-year anniversary concert in November. So there's a little nugget of information that you've heard it first, Tim.
Fantastic. And where will you be performing the album? Where will you be doing that?
In London at an arts venue called the Phoenix Arts Club. So that's in the West End, and that's going to be in November. And all details will be coming out next month or later this month. So, yeah, super excited. The venue is booked and everything is happening.
Fantastic.
So, and you're sort of going, where the hell's the time gone? A 10-year anniversary already.
It's amazing how quick 10 years goes by. The older we get, the faster time goes.
The faster it goes,
right? And I remember my parents telling me that when I was younger, like, wait till you get a little older. Wait till you have kids. You'll see how fast it goes. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And yeah. And here we are. And I'm like, wow, that was 30 plus years ago. They said that to me. And, here I am at 44 with 4 kids that have already all graduated high school. One of them graduated college. The other one is a senior in college. And it's just like, yeah, where does the time go? it's
Well, you started young.
I did. I started. I was actually funny. I was 19. My wife was 24. We had met,
Amazing.
and we had met at our godson's christening. My
No way.
yeah, my friend Greg and his fiance at the time, they were having the baby, and my wife and his wife, our fiance at the time, were college roommates. And my wife was from
Oh my gosh.
my wife was from Vermont, and she had moved back down to Massachusetts. She went to school in Massachusetts at a woman's university, and yeah, we met at the christening, and then 2 weeks later, we went on our first date, and yeah, we've been together for almost 25 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I'm not gonna
That's a
say
lot of
it's
hard work.
it was a lot of hard. And then you throw 4 kids within 5 years. You know, if we made the decision like, hey, let's just, we had our oldest daughter, Casey, and then it was like, oh, we're gonna have one more, and then it was like, hey, we're having a third, and then we're like, well, we have to have four. We don't want to have odd man out. So yeah, it was
An odd number.
yeah, and we had 2 girls, 2 boys, so it was perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't have designed it better.
Yeah, it all worked out. It all worked out, and they're all very successful at what they do now. So, yeah, happy, proud dad moment. But I tend to ramble sometimes, and I apologize for that. But
Not at all. I'm not rambling. I do the same thing, so I'm like, great. This is the
yeah,
perfect match of an interview for me.
no, and that's what's great about these conversations is I have a little game plan of what I want to talk about, but it never goes as planned because conversation just happens, and there's no rules to conversation, and you can't put a conversation in a box and say this is how it has to. It's not structured. So
No,
and
no,
that's
right.
and I love that, and that's the beauty of doing this live too, is you get the imperfections, you get the raw in the moment live reaction from someone, and nobody's going back and mixing it and cutting parts out, or
Exactly.
and I love,
Exactly.
and that resonates with me with live music as well. I love that. I love listening, and you hear a little bit of a mix up, and then you can see the artist like, I made a little mistake. It's like that's the beauty of
Yeah.
a live show, is the imperfections, because it lets you
Yeah.
know that they're a human, they're real, and I think that helps people connect with them a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's yeah, exactly. It kind of breaks that fourth wall in a way, doesn't it? It's sort of like you feel like you're part of that even more. I totally agree. I love it when there's a little mistake in there. But as also as a performer, that's something you have to remember, right? It's sort of like going, do you know what, if I mess up, it's actually allowing them access to me in a different way.
Yes.
So again, that's not a fault or a failure, but we'll strive for perfection, and you'll go away and berate yourself for that mistake forevermore. I mean, it was actually something that happened in the album. The album's called A Broken Heart, and in the title number, it was written so cleverly that I had nowhere to breathe. But it also, in the voice, then transpired about the pain and the anxiety and the hurt of a broken heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember sort of not being able, because it was also recorded live, and I couldn't get through the word broken in one breath. So I ended up saying broken heart. And I was so upset. I was like, guys, please, I know we said we didn't want to do edits and retakes, but I said, please, 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 as a classical singer, it's the cardinal rule that you don't breathe in the middle of a word.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is if you publish that, if that goes out and you produce that, that's the end of my career. I mean, I'll have no credibility.
Mm-hmm.
They were just sort of like, no, Margaret, staying in, because it sounds so heart-wrenching, and you couldn't have produced that if you tried. It was just such an authentic moment of truth in how you expressed your heartache that it's got to stay in. And I was so angry with them. I was just like, I can't believe you guys. Like, I'm mad. But
Mhm.
and it took me 3 years to listen to that song again, because I was in my head, I was in my professional musician head and
Mhm.
singer's head,
Mhm.
not as a listener or as a producer. And I listened to that now, and I went, they were absolutely right. They were absolutely right. That it's an emotive thing. It's not about perfection.
Mhm.
It's the imperfection that makes it perfect.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's and that's what makes everybody so unique. Is nobody's perfect, and we have
Yeah.
our imperfections, but that our imperfections, I think, really credit us to how our personalities, and
Oh yeah.
out of imperfection comes, I think it makes you strive for perfection. But there's those little things that just like, oh, okay, well, nobody's perfect, and you're right, nobody is perfect, but you can strive to
Yeah.
be perfect, but you still have those
Yeah.
imperfections, and I think the imperfections are what make us human. That
But also make us interesting. Can you
absolutely.
imagine if everyone was perfect? How dull would that be?
Oh my God, there'd be no the tabloids would be absolutely, they wouldn't even exist.
They wouldn't exist.
They
What would
wouldn't exist.
they do?
I know sometimes they take things a little bit too far, but it's like, but again, those imperfections, people, it's a relatable thing. People can relate to that, and I just I enjoy that. Um, as
Yeah.
a species, I think it's one of our greatest and one of our worst qualities. That you can.
Absolutely.
Um,
And that makes us all so colourful. There's
it,
just a whole palette of wonderfulness out there.
it does, and it definitely, there is a palette, and it's amazing because when it comes to art, there are no rules. And now I think with music, there really are no rules or boundary in what you can do. um
Yeah.
I know some people like, oh, you have to structure a song like this, or you have to do this, or you have to do this, or why did you do that? And then it's because I'm making art, and
Yeah.
people forget something. I think the biggest thing is, when an artist shares something or does something, at first they're making that for themselves. They're giving you a piece of them that they want to share with you, whether you like it or not. That's why I never trash talk. I don't like to say I hate an artist or a musician, or because at the
No.
end of the day, they're they're opening themselves to you, and they're sharing something, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable, with you, and they're very vulnerable.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're doing it.
Exact.
At the end of the day, it's also, do you know what? It might not resonate with me, and that's cool.
Yep.
It's the same, like my voice and my art probably doesn't resonate with everyone either. And I've got friends who've even said that. They said, look, Marika, I'm not so into the opera, but if you do a jazz night or a cabaret, I'll come to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's cool. Like, you don't have to like everything I do.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it's just enough that you support me in doing what I want to do. You don't have to come. You don't have to love it.
Yep.
That's not a commitment that people need to do. But then, you just, exactly that, even if it doesn't resonate with you or it's not your thing, you just go, do you know what? I take my hat off because you're doing it.
Exactly.
You're giving it a go. And there's something, you have to be in awe of that, right? I think that's, so many people are scared of giving things a go.
Absolutely.
And giving themselves the opportunity to do it. And it's just like, you just want to encourage people to go, you don't have to be the best at it. You don't have to be successful at it. Just do it for yourself.
Absolutely.
Just give it a go. If it's something you think will give you pleasure, invest in that.
Absolutely. And I think that's like the biggest thing is, people are afraid to take that step, or do it. But once you can put yourself at ease, and, do something that you want to do, it allows you in life, in other things, whether it's your daily job or how you interact with people, or, how your mindset, it changes you, and it changes you for the better, I think. it allows you to do that
Definitely.
stuff.
And have you ever had that? So, like, often there's events or something that I need to go to, and I'm just knackered, and everything is screaming, I don't want to go. I want to just hit the sofa and be lazy and have a night in. And then you sort of like dust yourself off and you put your glad rags on and you just go, come on, you said you'd go.
Yep.
Just go. Even if it's just for an hour. If you're really tired, then you can come home early, whatever.
Yep.
And sometimes those nights have been the best nights. Like, you just put yourself into a different frame of mind and you've got your butt out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you meet that one connection. Again, you've sowed a seed that becomes something. And you just go, God, it would have been so easy not to go out tonight. I was just totally not in the mood. But look what I would have missed if I hadn't.
It's funny.
You know?
It's funny you just brought that up because I just went through this yesterday.
Oh, really?
It was, I went to a music festival and I had an interview, a little impromptu interview with the singer and DJ from the band. And I was supposed to leave here at a certain time, and my companion didn't tell me he was leaving and taking off with somebody else. There was some miscommunication. So my interview was going to be at, I think, like 1:30, 1:45. And I'm sitting at home at 12 o'clock wondering where my travel companion was. And I get a text like, oh, I'm already on the way to the show.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, okay, I've got an hour ride. The band was coming on at 1:10. I'm like, I have to find parking. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then I was back and forth in my head. I'm like, do I just cancel? And I'm like, you know what? Just go. So I hopped in the car, drove the hour, found parking, walked into the venue, got miscommunication in the venue because it was there were two stages outside with bands playing, and then inside the inside the venue there was a stage set up with where the band I was going to see and talk to were playing, and they misguided me. I went to the other side of the venue, and then they're like, "Oh no, you got to actually go into the Palladium." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." Huff it back across the venue. As I'm walking in, the band is introducing themselves and going on stage. And it all worked out. And then after the show, the singer found me. We went down into the basement where they had an art exhibit set up. And we found a spot behind a curtain. We did a quick little talk, and we exchanged some stories before we went live and after. And it was a absolutely beautiful moment for me. And
epic.
Yeah, I was just so fortunate because that mindset, like, oh, I'm just this my traveling companion already left, and now I'm got to go out there by myself, and I got to do this, and it's like
I probably won't make it on time.
Exactly.
I think it could have been so easy just to give up on it.
Exactly, and that was like, and I could feel myself slipping back into that negativity, and I'm like, nope, don't do that. Yeah. Get your ass in the car, get up on the highway, and let's go.
Exactly right. Sort of like there are always those little moments where you're just going, come on. You've got to sort of pull it out the depths, don't you?
Absolutely.
But also knowing that about yourself. I think, for me, that's also come with age. It's sort of like going, I know what my own limiting beliefs are,
mm-hmm.
and I know when I need to override them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because because we all have it. I've had some wonderful opportunities where the performances I've had, and you do sort of like going, oh my God, this is insane. And you think, if I think too much about it in that moment, I'd never go on that stage. I would freak myself out just because of the immenseness of it, and then just going, I can't do that. What on earth are you thinking? So people go, how do you get through it? And I was just sort of like, I don't think about it at all.
Yep.
It's literally, I've got to put that out of my mind, how big a gig this is.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'll never get out there in front of the cameras or on that stage or whatever. It's just like, no, I've just got to shove it to one side. And then when I finish the gig, you sort of like, again, it's sort of like it's the emotions. They come out in tears and, you know, they're happy tears, but it's also the overwhelm of like, I just did that. Oh my God, somebody catch me. I'm about to faint.
Yes. Trying to process, when you do something that in the moment I don't think you realize how great or how much of an impact it's going to have. And then trying to process it afterwards, you're like, oh my God, I did this. And, you know, at the end of the day, I sit here sometimes and, you know, after having conversations with people, you know, and especially through the podcast, I'm like, who am I? Like, how was I afforded this? And how was I able to do this and have the conversation and interact with people? Like, it's like, well, you know what? It's because of positivity. It's because of being with positive people. Positive people push you in the direction of positive people, and you're able to interact. And it's just like, again, it's if you open yourself up and you accept the positive energy that's out there, and you can put it out there towards other people, it's amazing what you can accomplish.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. That's so true. And it's especially nice. I just think the world is competitive enough.
Yes.
You know, there's absolutely no need. There's enough good energy out there for everyone. So if we can lift each other up, that's even better. You know, it's sort of like, great. And people are going, well, what do you get out of it? And I was just like, a really happy glow. It just makes me feel good. I don't need to get anything financially out of it or business out of it. It's just sort of like, listen, if I can help a person out, happy days.
Absolutely.
You know, spread the love. There's enough to go around.
Absolutely. And if everybody put themselves into that mindset and did that, we'd be in a lot better place. Like the whole world would be it would be so much easier, because it's the energy it takes to be negative and not lift people up. It's more work than it is just to be positive, be nice to people, you know. And I say this every time I talk to somebody and have a conversation, and it goes around to positivity. It's like in the morning when you're going to get a coffee, hold the door for someone, say good morning.
Yeah.
You know, say hello. How are you? Have a good day. That could change the course of that person's day. That small 1 minute, 30-second, whatever interaction. It's like, it's so easy and it's free. It doesn't cost anything to be nice.
I know, which surprises people a lot of the time, I think.
Well, I think, you know,
it's like, go on, try it. Everyone can do it.
Absolutely. And it's easy. It's so easy. Just be nice, be kind, love one another, help people out. That's it. That's all you can do. And I think that's, you know, it definitely helps. It helps me as a person, you know, being kind to each, because it's infectious. Positivity is infectious.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Coming back to you. So I understand you performed for the royal family at one point.
Yes, I did. That was another one where I got that job in a complete roundabout, random way. So back in the day, many, many moons ago, I was temping on receptions. So I was just this one, it was a bank I was temping for, I think, on their reception. And it never dawned on me that I'm covering the same receptionist all the time, because the lady was off sick on many occasions. And back in the day when websites and the internet was just sort of coming up, and I was just like, well, how do I advertise myself? How do I get people to know about me? And I said, well, I'm kind of desk hopping. You know, every day I'm in a different office or whatever. So I used to make my website the landing page of their internet browsers, so that whenever they tried to get onto, you know, the internet, instead of Google coming up or something, my website would come up.
Okay.
And if they ever questioned it, you know, because it might have been a breach of security in their business, I don't know. But if they ever questioned it, I was just going to play blonde and sort of play dumb and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just got a text message to say my website was down. I must have pressed something. I don't know what I did. I'm mortified.
Yep.
Please, oh my God, help me. Get it off. And so I pretty much did that everywhere I went. And then years later, I'd completely forgotten that's the kind of thing I used to do. And I got the phone call to say, would you sing at a Christmas concert? It's going to have royalty in attendance. And so at the end of the phone call, I was just like going through the diary. I was going to clear whatever I had because, I was going to have an opportunity to sing for the royal family.
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to play it cool. And I just said at the end of the phone call, I said, look, before we go, can I just ask how you came about finding me? Did you do a Google search or did someone tell you about me? Or, it's always interesting, bit of market research of like, how do people come about finding me? And she goes, oh, well, Jane Ullman recommended you. And I was just like, oh, that was lovely of her. I'll have to send her a big bunch of flowers to say thank you. Hung up the phone. I was like, who on earth is Jane Ullman? I couldn't remember. So I was like, looked on Facebook. She wasn't on Facebook. LinkedIn. She wasn't on LinkedIn. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so this person is not on social media. Who on earth is this? So I went through, I did a search on my computer through the emails. And lo and behold, it was the receptionist I'd never met, but covered on that reception desk so many times for that bank. And so every time she came back to work, she logged on her computer and I'd be singing at her. So she met me every time she got back to work. And she was singing in a choir, and in that choir was the chairlady of this charity who said, look, the SAFA, which is the Soldiers, Sailors, Air Force Association. And she said, look, I need an opera singer for my event. Do you know anyone? She goes, well, somebody used to work in my office and she was an opera singer. Let's look her up. And that's how they came about finding me. So, that was like 10 years later.
Wow.
From somebody I'd never met, but I left my website on her computer every time I temped her. She must have thought I was bonkers. But
you did it for a reason. Like there was a reason behind it, and you knew there were. It's amazing.
It evidently worked. She remembered me 10 years on and got me a gig singing for the royal family. Like,
that's
again,
amazing.
Totally mind-blowing how these things come about.
And have you?
The other thing, it's also, I'm a true believer of like, I never treat anyone differently, sort of be that a street cleaner or the queen, because you don't know who anyone is.
Absolutely.
Right? The barista in the coffee shop, you have no idea who they are, what they've been through, who they're going to be next, So it's always being polite and talking to everyone on the same level with respect. And these opportunities are still there. They keep popping up. You're like, wow, 10 years later, somebody I've never met got me a gig singing for the royal family. Boom.
Mind-boggling.
Nuts.
Now,
Nuts, right?
Have you ever connected with her?
No, I've never found her. So if she's out there, Jane Ullman, please get in touch. I owe you one, big time.
That's awesome. And again, it's just, again, through positivity and just being a good person, I think, whether it's karma, the universe, a higher power, God, whatever, I think when you can project all that and be a good person, and we are rewarded with our good efforts. I truly believe that.
Yeah. And then it's sort of like, it's lovely to give that back.
Absolutely.
I think there's also something to be said about that. It's not just absorbing all the goodness. It's just like, right, where it's my duty to put that back into society. It's and put that back into the universe. Otherwise, that's how it keeps the sharing going. It keeps it alive.
Yeah, and that's what
you can't be hogging it all to yourself.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And that's, I think, what helps propel us forward and to be successful, as an artist, as a singer, whatever we're doing, even if it's your daily job, your 9 to 5, it helps you, it propels you, it makes you a better person. And it helps you engage with people that you wouldn't have normally engaged with, all through being positive, all through being kind, courteous. Those are things, that were instilled upon me as a youth. And then I put that into my kids, and I always said, you treat everybody how you want to be treated, with, with kindness, with respect, with admiration, with love. And I said, you're going to get that back. And if you don't, you just know, okay, guess what? I'm not going to interact with that person. I put it out there. I was good. I tried doing. They don't want to. It's just some people just aren't receptive to that, and they want to be negative and want to be angry at the world, and everybody's out against them.
Mhm.
But yeah, when it's the power of positivity is amazing. Um,
It is.
so
Yeah, it really is. I couldn't agree more. It's something, as you said, it's an infectious thing. So it's like the ripple effect. And you never know how far that ripple's going to go.
absolutely,
As you said, it can change. A small action that means nothing to you can completely change the path of someone's day or life. You know that's a thing. You don't always know how far that will go.
absolutely, and that's how it's funny you just said that because that's how we're here today. It was
Yeah,
through social media. It was through interaction. Through Cornell. Um,
yeah,
him uh, again. Just he's a great. He's listening to the show. And you have a family member listening as well.
indeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's probably my mum and dad.
Oh, okay. So they're
They're
listening. Say hello to mom and dad.
forcibly logging in. Hi, mum and dad. Very proud that they managed to log in.
Yep, that's awesome. Well, we
Mum was
will.
worried. She was just sort of like, what if it doesn't work? I went, click on the link. Click on it. It should just be on there.
Yep. Yeah, it's a hard app to maneuver, the Podbean app, but it's for me as a host, it's very easy to get on and do these shows, and then once they're done, I just hit download, and then I put them out there, and then they just go to every. I think I'm like on like 15 different platforms right now, maybe more.
Amazing.
So it gets out there, and again, the power of the internet. It's a
And hello to Cornell. Thanks for spreading the love, hon.
Yeah, he's great. He's been it was funny yesterday after my wife told me, she's like, you need to go to that show. Get your ass out of the house. And I called Cornell and was talking to him, and he's like, get yourself in a good mindset. Everything's going to be fine. You're fine. Just get to the show. You know what you have to do. You know why you're going there. You have a mission. And I just needed, sometimes you need that energy, that influence from others.
Reinforcement, yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
and that's
A
the,
little positivity injection from somebody else.
absolutely. And that just goes back to lifting others up, like you had mentioned. Excuse me.
Exactly right.
It's so easy. It's so easy to do that. Just if everybody listening and anybody that's going to be listening to this, just lift other people up and show some love and support. It's free and it's easy.
Yes, and I don't know why they can be quite fearsome of being friendly. Especially in cities. I don't know what it's like over there. But, sometimes over here, you're on the tube or on public transport and you have a conversation with someone, like, why are you talking to me? It's like, because you're next to me and I can.
Right. It's funny you say that because I live in so the community I grew up in, I live in East Hampton, and it's a farming and mill community. We had a lot of, during the Industrial Revolution, there were mills and farms. I grew up on my family's farm. We had pigs and cows and all that stuff. And it was a little bit like we were the start of I would say not really the hill towns, because we live in a valley. We're surrounded by two mountain ranges. But it was, just a very quaint town. And then you go to the next town over, Northampton, and it was a mini city. There was live music. There was art. All these great things that I was able to go experience that I couldn't get in the town I lived in. And that's where I, saw my first live show at a club there. And then again, my parents, I was junior high, maybe freshman year of high school. They're like, oh yeah, we'll drop you off and we'll pick you up, or whatever. And a group of my friends and I would go. We go see live shows, and then mom and dad, or my friend's mom and dad, would come pick us up and bring us home. So I was very fortunate to have that it's not a big city, but it's big enough for where we are.
Yeah, yeah. Sort of like, and live concerts. I mean, I think that's also something that's quite inspiring, isn't it? It's sort of like, as you were saying, it's the energy in the room, and that's something that wasn't so obvious to me up until lockdown. In that, I was obviously everyone turned to Zoom and online platforms to do work,
Mm-hmm.
and I was having the conversation, so going, why am I feeling so drained? Like, I do this all the time. Why am I suddenly feeling like I'm running low on energy? And then it dawned on me, I was like, because what inspires me is being, like with my choirs, is being in the room and hearing that choir singing back to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about me, it's about what we're doing together. It's what we're creating together and the sound we have. And that was something you couldn't do online. You know, only one person could sing or talk at a time. If you all tried it at the same time with different bandwidths and internet latency, it was absolute chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But occasionally I let the chaos run wild because I went, I really miss that.
Yes.
I miss the energy of a room. I miss the energy of being with people. And that's where I just suddenly went, okay, well, that's why I'm running low on energy, because I'm giving a lot of energy out, as I usually do, but I'm not finding that return of being in the room. And that's what feeds me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was just like, oh my God, does that make me a needy person? I need other people. I was like, no, that makes you human. And that's a human connection. And it's a beautiful gift that we have, that we can spread that energy in person and things like that. So, yeah, there were certain elements that was amazing that we could continue online. But yeah, again, there's sort of different things you find out about yourself and what makes you tick and what human connection does, you know, for each and every one of us. It's sort of like it's a human need to be together.
It is, and I think as a species, you know, I know a lot of some people push people away or don't want to interact with people in a certain way. But it's like I don't like. I'm weird. I don't like large crowds of people, but I don't mind going to a concert with a large crowd of people. If that makes sense.
Interesting, isn't it?
It is, and it's like, and I have this thing in my head because I'm always, you know, you second guess yourself, and you're like, oh, well, I hope I don't run into so and so, or I hope, you know, and it's like, well, just when you go to a concert, you're all there for the same purpose, and that's to feel that energy, to feel the, you know, the music that's getting played for you, and to interact with the people that are at the show, to interact with the artist that's at the show. I feel, you know, after coming out of a live show, you're so uplifted, and the energy, sometimes it's overwhelming. You know, where it's like, whew, wow. When an artist puts on a performance and it moves you, then you know, like, okay, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. You connected, they connected with you, and it's magical at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the power of it as well, is that they're connecting with people they've never met, but they're right in front of them. It's like in that space and in that moment, that's golden.
Yes.
And everyone's experiencing that in their own way. And again, there's another connection. Again, that's that ripple effect. So they're all connected in that space through the artist being there and the music connecting with them and taking them all on their individual journeys, but yet a collective journey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so many facets to it, isn't it? It's a wonderful experience.
It sure is, and it's like I like being inspired too. I feel that with a lot of musicians, there's certain points in my life where you're inspired by what they're doing or what they're saying or the art that they're making. And I think that also helps you on your journey, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to check this out, or I'm going to get into this, listen to this particular style of music. And, you know, every time I listen to a band or a musician, I think music is like a time machine.
Yeah.
It takes you back because when I
It's
hear
fun.
certain songs that you hear, it takes you back to that moment when you first heard the song, or you had a positive or maybe negative moment in time when that song was prevalent, or when you first heard it. And it's like it brings
Yeah.
it to me, it brings a lot of emotion back. It's like, oh, okay, oh, I remember when this came out. I was in high school, or I was in junior high, or I had just graduated, or I met this person, or I met that person. It's like I we're so fortunate to be able to again listen to that music and then go back. I feel like I travel back in time, like I can remember what's going
Oh,
on.
totally. And it's really interesting how the mind works with that as well, because smell will do the same thing. Certain scents will take you back and go, oh my gosh. But even if you're being taken back to that memory,
Yes,
like sometimes you can smell the wood, or you can smell that hallway, or that song will then actually sort of bring your senses back to life. So your
absolutely.
brain is triggering on so many different levels. You're just sort of like, oh my gosh. So yes, totally time warp, time capsule like.
Yes, yes, and I feel like the more and more with social media and all the other stuff is we kind of get sometimes we get lost within all of that. And I know I'm so guilty of it. I'll get on social media, and because you're interacting with other people, and you're looking for that excitement, and they're sharing their life experiences and that, and but then it's like, oh my god, 2 hours just went by.
Oh yeah,
Like, what the hell?
easily
Like,
done.
okay, I gotta put this phone down, or I gotta shut the computer off, and I need to just walk away, and I need to go outside, start my day, or whatever, go to the store, or just do
Yeah,
something, or pick up.
put your put the productivity hat back on, right? So you just sort of
Absolutely.
like, right, okay, I've just lost myself for a lot of time. I need to get on it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
It's
true.
it's so funny. It's so funny. It's like before we came on live today. I'd gone out, gotten coffee. I got a bite for breakfast, and came home, and I got all my stuff set up for our talk. And
Mm.
I looked over in the corner at my acoustic guitar that's been sitting there for about a month that I haven't touched, and I opened it up and I played music for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And
That's so
yeah,
cool.
but it got me into, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play guitar for a bit. I haven't done this in a while because of life, and I've been busy. So I started playing, and then it's like, okay, I kind of wrote a quick little piece, and it was so organic and natural. And then it's like I put the guitar down, and I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to take on the day. We're gonna have a wonderful conversation.
I love it. Do we get to hear the song?
Um, I might share it with you. I'm pretty private when it comes to what I do. Because I'm not like I started playing bass when I was young. Um,
Yeah.
so I can't read music. I could read the tablature. Uh, and I don't.
All you need.
Yeah, I just, and I think it's because I'm a little bit lazy. You know, when it was funny because when I started taking bass lessons, my first bass instructor, he was a great guy, but just was not a fit. And the second gentleman that took over, who I didn't realize at the time, and the more I got to know him, he played Carnegie Hall at I think 12 or
Oh, wow.
13 years old on violin. and
Wow.
and when I had met him, he had hair down past his shoulders, a goatee, a little mustache, and he was a heavy metal guitar player. And
Wow.
I had no idea. So then we'd start, as the lessons progressed, and I'd start talking to him, and he'd share things with me like, oh yeah, I play violin, and oh yeah, I play piano, oh yeah, I play drums, and it's like, oh, and I do sing. And
What?
it was like all this. He's a music prodigy. He's
Oh my god.
yeah, he's amazing. And I hadn't. It was funny. I'd lost connection with him. I hadn't seen him in years, and he was. and he had come over to my house numerous times to play with my cousin who was a drummer at the time,
Yeah.
and they would jam out, and then they kind of went their ways, and everybody kind of lost touch. Um, like I want to say it was right before COVID happened. I'm sitting out on my back
Yeah.
porch. It was early evening. A car pulls in, and a gentleman's walking up the back stairs, and he's like, "Oh, I'm lost. I need directions." And I'm looking at him,
Oh,
and I'm like, "Todd?" And he's like, "Tim?" And I'm like, and I hadn't seen him in probably 20 years.
no
And
way.
I'm like, "Oh my God." And hug. He came and sat down. My folks, who were very
Wow.
friendly with him too, came outside. We started talking, and it was just like, it was it was so awesome. And music brought us together initially, and he was playing a
Yeah.
show locally. He remembered where my house was and decided to pop in on chance that somebody was home.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love that.
Yes, it's so that, but he was. I'm not sure where I was going with the whole story, uh, but he was a huge,
It was
huge.
another one of our tangents.
Yeah, that's it. Just conversation taking place. He was a huge part in my musical journey, and then, after he had left, I'm like, oh, I got to start. I hadn't picked up my bass or my guitar, um, in probably, you know 18 years. I just kind of stopped, and I
Yeah.
started playing again, and it was just like, it's funny. The universe sends you things at times when you need them the most,
Yes.
and not always.
Yes. Exactly.
We don't realize that we needed it at that exact moment in time. But then you come back around to it and you think about it. It's like, oh, I'm going to be completely. I have not thought about him coming over here since like the day it happened, and now it's like
Wow.
all this memory, all this emotion, all this stuff. I'm like, yeah. Shortly after that, I started playing guitar again. It's like he
See?
came into my life, and then he dropped off of social media since then. I haven't talked to him, um, but he plays out. Sometimes I try to look him out, but we'll connect again at some point. But his name's Todd Rosevere, and he's a brilliant musician, and he was a great friend and mentor for me. And I'm forever grateful that were able to come together at I was at such a young age, and connect
I
with him.
love that. I love that. But it's so true, isn't it? How I was just saying that as well to my sister and my niece and nephew. And I was like, when I'm teaching, I don't push the children to do exams. For me, that's not the be all or end all. For me, it's to instill the love playing an instrument into those children. It's just like, because that will never leave them.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was almost like therapy. I was never a brilliant pianist, but I remember coming home from school and being so frustrated that I had to sit there and be quiet all day long, because that wasn't my natural way of being.
Mm-hmm.
That, I would sit at the piano for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes and just bash out and pretend to bash out some Rachmaninoff or something, making probably a hideous noise. But for me, that just to have that creative release, then I could sit down at the dinner table or something and just go, okay, I feel better, thank you.
Yes.
It was just that something that is, like you were saying, that, that your guitar playing and that was just for you, and that's something that you're quite private about. It's like, well, that's all it needs to be. It's that relationship that you have with it when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
That's your therapy or your release or whatever it is. And that's a gift to be able to give that to somebody, be that as an adult or as a child. They'll take that wherever they are throughout their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you don't have to become a virtuoso or a concert pianist or take all these exams and grades. So you just need to have a love of it, and that's something that will always be there for you. I mean, that's an amazing gift to have in your back pocket.
It sure is, and I'll tell you what else. it opened me up to is I didn't realize that I had like like a part of me that could write like song lyrics. I've
Oh
got
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've got probably 20 25 songs, like fully written lyrics to songs that I did.
Amazing.
And it wasn't even, it was funny because I'll write lyrics when I'm either depressed or super happy. And I've
Mm,
never sung these songs. I've never put any music to them, but it's almost like a release to sit there and write this stuff down and then go back and look at it and like, oh wow, this could be a song or it could be a poem. But I
yeah.
I didn't never knew I had that in me. And then when you start doing it, it's like, oh my God, it is a type, it is a definite type of therapy.
Yeah.
When you're able to do that.
Catharsis to it. Yeah. And just sort of like let it all out. It's a way of being expressive as well.
Yes. And I think that's a great thing. It's a gift that we're so fortunate to possess as a species, to be able to, not only interact with people and have, positive conversation, but the art we can make. And there's, like I said, there's no boundaries on it. There's no limitations. And as long as it's not hurting anyone, it's amazing. And
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to, to be able to do stuff like that and have the conversations like this. And, I feel complete.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also is a certain type of personality to be able to do that, sort of like just open up conversations and things like that. And the more we do it, the more comfortable we feel with doing it.
Absolutely.
Because people go, oh my gosh, don't you ever feel self-conscious? Or what are you going to talk about? And it's sort of like, oh, I don't know. You've met me. I said, we'll talk about whatever comes out at the moment.
Sure.
That's the least of my worries, that I never have anything to talk about. I was like, that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And that's like you said, that's a part of us. That's a part of our personality, is that
Yeah.
I think, I yearn for conversation. I need it. I need conversation. I
Yeah.
need an interaction with people. Like that's what that's what drives me. That's what makes me feel good.
Yeah. And also, that's how we learn things,
Absolutely.
and that's how we pick up on different things. And I love having good conversations because and people go, oh, was it more of a debate? I went, no. I said, just because I've come away from a conversation where I might just say, do you know what? I don't know anything about that topic,
Mm-hmm.
but can you enlighten me? Like, what is your interest in that? Or how did you come about finding out? I've got no problem by saying I know nothing about that, but I think it's an opportunity to learn something. It's just like, okay, so tell me about it.
Sure.
And the worst I think that will ever come out of that is if I turn around and go, do you know what? I can't say I agree with it, but thank you for enlightening me.
Absolutely. Yep. We can agree.
Possible outcome that could come out of a conversation,
Yes.
Or if not, you've learned something new. Just go, wow, I've just never seen it from that perspective before. It's just like, that's a really valid point. Or,
Yep.
it makes you think. And it's sort of, again, it's an inspiration. It can open up different pathways of how we interact or how we think or how we communicate.
Yes.
If you never have those conversations, what are we learning?
Absolutely. Like it'd be a very dull environment. To
Yeah.
like to be a hermit and a shut-in and not converse with people. I couldn't even imagine it. I couldn't even imagine it. I mean, there's definitely, don't get me wrong, there's definitely times where I don't want to talk to people.
Oh, yeah, there's other times where you need to shut everything away and
Yeah.
like, I need my downtime and peace and quiet.
Yeah. And that for me is, sometimes, usually after 9 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, I'll take my phone, I'll put it on the charger,
Well,
and just
I'm glad you said at night, because it's 9 o'clock in the morning now. Otherwise, I'd be like, oh, well, we'll cut the conversation short then.
yeah, no, no, at night I like to try to not be on social media before I go to bed. I'm definitely on it, but I again, I put the phone down and I walk away from it, and it's like, okay, put it on the charger. I'm going to bed. I'll put the television on. I'll take in, a movie or a show right before I go to bed. And then I, I'm able to fall asleep. And I do a nightly meditation too, which is,
Nice.
which
Yeah.
I find that it helps me clear my head and get ready for the next day. It really helps out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's also allowing yourself to have that time. It's
yeah.
important, isn't it? It's sort of like going, actually, otherwise you start the day in this state of rushing or
Yes.
just always feeling behind the beat.
Yes.
Yep.
No, couldn't agree with you more. That's such a perfect explanation of it. It definitely sets you on a better path for the next day. And doing it in the morning too. Just take, even if it's a minute, just clearing your thoughts and clearing your mind and being just like, okay, I'm ready to take on the day. Take a big breath of air. If the sun's out, let it hit you in the face and, take on the day.
Yeah. But it's also positive visualization as well, isn't it? It's the sort of sometimes when you've got a busy day ahead, rather than sort of going, oh God, I'm dreading today. It's going to be a long one. You're sort of like going, okay, how do I want to feel by the end of today?
Yes.
What do I want to achieve from this day? It's like, and then with that mindset, you get through the day and you go, yes, okay, but it was challenging, but I did what I set out to do. And that's success. Right. Fixed it. Done. You know. So again, it's mindset, isn't it? It's that positive outlook of like reframing something.
Yep.
Rather than taking drudgingly through the day.
Yes.
Drudging everything you need to do.
And you know what helps me get through the day too is the music. Like,
yeah,
at my job, I'm able to take my Bluetooth speaker. I'm a plumber, so I go into people's homes or new houses and do their plumbing, and I always have my Bluetooth speaker with me because it's like I need that. I need the drive. The music gives me the drive. It gives me the motivation. Or I'll put on a talk podcast or something and listen to it. A good conversation. A lot of the times I find myself, in my coworker, my apprentice, great guy. I said, a couple days after I do my podcast, I'm like, hey, did you listen to the podcast? And he's like, no. Do you want to listen to it? I'm like, well, yeah, because it takes me a couple days to process, and then I go back and re-listen to it, and it's like, oh, okay, I remember that. I remember talking about that, and then it's nice. It's nice, and then I'm my own worst critic, of course. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have talked about that. Like, why the hell did I do that? So, and the one thing I try to never do is bring up politics, because I think politics brings out some of the worst, and it can bring out the best in people, but I just find that it's a path that people don't need to go down. And I like to avoid it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, it's just,
but and in my day job, I'm very lucky that my job is music, so I'm constantly taking that with me. And people go, "Oh, you've got so much energy and you've got such a positive outlook. Like, how are you always so happy?" And I was just like, I sing all day long. Like, I'm literally releasing happy endorphins all day long.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just like, find something you love doing, and you will have a smile on your face, no matter how difficult or challenging or whatever the day may be. It's sort of like going, well, we had a great bloody thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, well, I want to ask you, so, you have your show coming up, and you're doing a show in November, your 10th anniversary of your album release.
Yes.
What else do you have in store, for live performances coming up?
Oh, what have I got? Well, I sing in a restaurant, which I love. It's a tiny Italian restaurant, and I do opera nights and jazz nights there, which is a sort of like a really cute, intimate setting. So I've got those coming up. I just had a performance on Thursday at a private members club, which was great fun. Then I've got the concert, the anniversary concert, and then I haven't got any gigs lined up in October, but I'm taking that time out for rehearsals and getting things done, because before we know it, we're going to be into Christmas gigs. Mm-hmm. Because they already start in the second week of November over here. The Christmas lights switch on, the Christmas market, because it's always the the 3 weekends running up to Christmas, the
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks, so the Advent weeks, and those are usually super busy. So in November, I've already got a couple of weeks. I've got 16 days without a break.
Oh, wow.
Because it's just going to be lining them up. But I love Christmas. It's my favorite season, I'd say. So I'm more than happy to sing Christmas songs literally for 2 months straight.
It's so funny you say.
It's like, oh my God, I can't hear it anymore. And I'm just sort of like, I'm going to sing it again.
As soon as Halloween ends, Halloween and Christmas are the two biggest holidays that we celebrate in our house. When there's Easter and we have some other holidays, but and Thanksgiving. But Christmas, my wife has a couple of. She's actually got 3 Christmas tattoos. She has a.
Really?
Yeah, she has a vintage Santa Claus. She has
I love it.
a snowflake, and she has the Charlie Brown Christmas tree tattoo.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, so when you say Christmas is a big holiday, we enjoy it as well, and it's nice to hear because Christmas is so. And she has a vintage ornament, like the 1920s, 30s glass the beautiful ornate ornaments that they used to have.
Yeah.
Like I love that. I love the style. And then it's funny because a couple of years ago we started collecting Christmas tree toppers, the glass topper.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's funny during COVID we'd be on eBay and be like, oh yeah, the glass toppers. I had gotten one from Russia. We had gotten one from Germany. There was a couple of old ornaments we got from overseas, and they're not super expensive, and anybody can collect them. But it's just great to. Oh, and Poland was another country we got one from.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, my parents still have one as well. I love it though. It's like, and they also still have real candles on the trees.
Yeah.
So they've got like these. Yeah, the Austrians and the Germans, we put real candles on the trees. They've got clips. And then you put the candle in the clip, but you just have to keep an eye on them because otherwise you'll have a house fire.
Sure. You're not stepping out for the evening, leaving the candles lit on the tree.
Yeah, that's not such a good idea.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, and I love that the vintage Christmas and just
totally
the music. Like to get into our Christmas spirit, we watch Bing Crosby's The White Christmas.
Oh, a classic. A classic. I love all the Christmas movies.
Yes, just great.
I think there's just something so magical about Christmas, and it's also the message behind it that there's hope,
Yes.
And there's a sharing, and again, there's always such a good community vibe because people come together again.
Yes.
It's sort of like throughout the whole year, you can get so easily in the city sort of distracted and separated. And it's just another season where people come together. And I think there's just something wonderful about that. It's just, yeah.
No,
again, the carol singing, the music and everything, it just brings people together. It's so cool.
It sure does. And, that's, I love driving at night. You go by people's houses and they have the lights or displays set up.
Yeah.
It's just.
Oh, but I'm sure the Americans go all out. Right? At least that's what we see in the movies.
I tell you, there's a town about 20 minutes from us, and the entire street, they have every house on it's a cul-de-sac. It goes down and there's a big circle and you got to turn around and come back down. And we used to take the kids.
Oh my God, I love it.
And there's people outside caroling. Each house has the displays. It's absolutely awesome. And the kids would, when they were younger, we take them there. And then there's a park, two of the parks here. They do Christmas light displays, and they have, one of them has like a small, little train, and the kids hop in the train and they ride through the park on the train, and then it stops and you get out and you're in Santa's village. It's it is a magical time of year. Even, you know, I don't like to buy into you know, the where you have to buy all
Commercial
this.
side.
Yeah, the commercials. It always ruins a holiday. Like it gets when it
Yeah,
gets commercialized. But if you can filter that out and get to the true meaning of Christmas, which is joy, love, giving, and receiving,
exactly.
it's just oh, it's such a good time of the year. It's such a good time of the year for people,
Right?
and then you have that after Christmas where I feel like you kind of like, oh man, it's over. Well,
I
there's
know. Oh, it's always so sad when they take the lights down. You're like,
yeah,
no, they're so pretty.
yeah. There's always like, and we like to, we keep our tree up till after New Year's. We always go through New Year's, and usually the week after New Year's
Yeah,
it comes
yeah.
down. But it's it's nice, and we go to a local farm, and they have live trees, and we get a live tree every year. And I
I
know,
love it.
and they and there's some great tree farms around here that are super responsible, and a lot of them will actually take cuttings and leave the lower half of the tree, and then that tree is going to live on and grow. It's awesome. And at the end of the
Oh, good.
yes, and then we have local people that take the trees and they bring them and feed their goats the tree. So it's like
Oh,
circle of
so yeah,
life.
it's a recycling.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. No, but yeah, there's just a warmth to Christmas. So I always get excited about that. It's a lot of work. It's my it can be my cash cow of the season, but I love it. I just absolutely love it. And so yeah, so that's sort of a gig up until the end of the year, and then sort of like figuring out what I'm going to do next year.
Well,
It's been one of those things that this year's been a bit of a roller coaster of that. It's sort of like
yep.
I've had lots of different things that have been aligning in the business, which is all great, exhausting, but great because it's
Yep.
all happening to the timeline I needed it to and I wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
But now you do sort of get to the point where you're like going, right, okay, now I need to think about the next steps and start projecting what needs to happen further afield. You're sort of going. Otherwise, before you know it, it will be next year already, won't it?
I know.
Blink and you'll miss it.
Yep. No, that's great, and it's I look forward to hearing your journey and where things go for you. I'm super excited for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, there's always something around the corner, even if we're not, as we were saying at the beginning, right? Full circle. It's like we just never know what's around the corner. It's just sort of like, ooh, okay.
Yep.
What haven't I done yet that needs to be done or that I want to do?
Yep. There's always something, and as long as you're open to new experiences, those opportunities will definitely present themselves to you. They definitely.
Yeah, I believe that as well. Keep channeling those manifestations.
That's it. Well, I enjoyed our conversation, and it was wonderful. Is there anything that you want to touch down, or any shout outs, or anything you'd like to discuss here towards the end?
Big shout out to you, Tim, for making it happen. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It has been absolutely awesome.
I appreciate
that. Thank you for your asking me sort of our transatlantic deals to come on your show. So exciting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I hope in the future, if I get your way or you get out this way, we can connect in person.
We will definitely touch base if that happens. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I will let you know that we're in the talks right now. It's very early stages of trying to do a music festival next year.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, we'll see what happens. But
let me know, and I'll see if I can come.
That
would be so cool.
Yes, and if that happens, we'll definitely have you on the lineup if things can work out that way.
be amazing.
Yeah, why?
That would be amazing.
Yeah, why not get you a gig here? Maybe it'll lift you up as well. Because there's some artists that we know that are definitely interested in doing things, and we're working on the details. Right now there's a lot of irons in the fire with what we're doing, but that's been
Yeah.
going into great talk on how we're going to do that, and when things happen, we'll definitely connect on that.
Oh, well, that sounds super exciting. We'll definitely stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I guess on that note, I want to thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for having I mean, this was a
Bless you. Thank you.
absolutely fantastic conversation.
Oh, it's been uplifting. I tell you, I love it. Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
You're welcome, and I look forward to having another conversation with you, and I look forward to to seeing you in person at some point, because I know that's going to happen. I know
It will.
we'll connect at some
We
point.
will make it happen. We will make it so.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, again,
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and I want to thank everybody that tuned in. Your folks are on here. We had a whole bunch of people coming into the live stream the last hour or so, and we're gonna wrap things up. On the live show. And again, thank you so much. And stay safe, stay healthy, and stay positive.
Likewise, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great day. I appreciate you. Thanks again.
You too.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Tim. All the best.
Okay. Same to you. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Bye.
So I'd like to thank everybody that tuned in to a very unique, very special episode today on Chewy's Road to Enlightenment. I'd like to thank everybody for, the positive feedback and, joining in on a Sunday morning. Again, thank you. I want everybody to be safe, be kind, lift each other up, and have some positive engagement in life, because that's what it's all about, being positive and helping each other out. So thank you on this special edition of Chewy's Road to Enlightenment. Marika Rauscher, Songs for the Heavens. Have a good day, everyone.